Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
Okay, it's Friday night, Gridiron Grinder time. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, is my buddy James. Just a couple of dudes hanging out each week talking about what's going on in the NFL. Tonight, episode 56, we're going to kick things off with Name That Stadium. Then we're going to talk about just some of the events from around the league this past week, some of the news. After that, we're going to pick up where we left off last week, talking about some fantasy football stuff. Last week, we gave some of our early sleeper picks. Tonight, we're going to give you guys some of our early bust picks. And then at the end, we're going to finish things off with the question of the week. And so, with all that being said, how's it going tonight, James?
It's going good. How's it going with you?
It's going good, man. It's going good. It's been a fast week. I can't believe it's already Friday night.
Yeah, no shit.
It's pretty wild, man. Sometimes they just fly by. Okay, so before we hit our recap of the news from the past week, let's do Name That Stadium. And so, for anybody who's watching, this is the part of the show where, as you can see, James is out there traveling the country. Every week, he's got a different stadium in his background, and we're just asking if you think you know what it is. Hit us up in the comments section. If you're the first person to get it right, we'll give you a special shout out next week's show. And so, James, where were we at last week, man?
Last week I was in Denver, and I've been trying for the life of me to recall why I chose Denver last week, and I can't. It might have been the whole Rodgers thing and how had been talking about like half the offseason how Rodgers was going to be traded to Denver, but I just don't remember.
I gotcha. Well, that's all right. There was probably some inspiration, but yeah, it's in the past now, and so you just got to remember where you're at tonight for next week.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, cool. Well, yeah, let's move it on over and we'll do our recap of the past week. So there's, from what I picked up, a fair amount going on. We're back into that time of year where things are starting to get tangible again. It's not as many puff pieces. We're getting some real news. And so the big news that came out just today, unless I missed it, I think it was today. Josh Allen signed a 6-year extension with the Buffalo Bills, worth 258 million. Big money, man, big money. I think that's 43 million a year is what that averages out to. It's pretty freaking solid, man. I mean, that guy came on fire at the right time last year, and now he's getting paid. Hopefully, he can keep it going.
Yeah, it did come out today. It was signed today because he was on one of the sports talk radio shows I listened to. They actually recorded an interview with him yesterday, and then played the interview today. And they were asking him about his contract extension talks, and he's like I'm not worried about it. It'll work itself out. Blah blah blah. And then like an hour after the interview aired, it fucking came out that he signed this massive extension.
Nice, nice. Yeah, it's not a 10-year Mahomes deal, but it's pretty freaking solid, man. 6 years, 43 million a year. And I think it gives him that flexibility of, quarterbacks play a long time, and 6 years from now, as long as everything's going right, he gets to re-up and get like the then, highest paid or near highest paid level, which probably goes up another notch, man. And that's the benefit of it not being a 10-year is that he'll just get to ratchet it up that much more as long as he keeps the course production wise.
Yeah, but it's really, if you think about it, not that far off of Mahomes' contract. Because wasn't Mahomes's like 10 years, 450 million or 45 million a year average?
Well, and that's what I'm saying is that I think that like for Josh Allen, the benefit of it not being a 10-year is that, year seven, his pay is going to go up, whereas Mahomes knows that extra 4 years he's already kind of locked in. I'm sure that there's, all sorts of ways of adjusting that along the way and doing whatever they want to do to keep him happy, but I think you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, like with Mahomes, his contract is basically basically fully guaranteed.
Yeah.
Like it's like it's like they have the the year guarantees 2 years prior. So like
Oh,
two
wow.
or something, or like so they have to basically they so like 2023 would have guaranteed in March of this
Okay.
year,
Yeah.
and then 2024 guarantees in March of next year.
Okay.
So they basically have to say, oh, we're we're not gonna have you pass this year next year like 2 years in advance for him. Where Allen's, I didn't see the guaranteed money on it.
I didn't either.
I was just trying to look at it. It's like, so it's 50% guaranteed.
Okay.
So it was, yeah, 50% guaranteed. So whatever that is, 100 and
129, I think.
yeah, 129.
It's pretty sweet, man. It's pretty sweet. Yeah, I never thought he would have had that kind of ascension, with the accuracy issues he had coming out of college, but holy cow, he put it together, man. It's impressive.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about him. Like people were high, real high on him, and I wasn't seeing it either. So
Yeah. I remember he was getting comparisons to he was getting some comparisons to Cam, he was getting some comparisons to Big Ben, but basically they were like uh he's got like a Big Ben arm, but not the accuracy. And it was like, well, at the NFL, man, that doesn't mean anything. You got to have the accuracy.
yeah,
And holy shit, he got there, dude. And it's rare. Like we saw it with Kirk Cousins when he came out of Michigan State. His accuracy improved every single year. And that was one of the knocks when he came out, and it was why he was, a later round pick was, well, it's hard for that accuracy to get better at the NFL level because the game is that much harder. And you just don't have a lot of history of quarterbacks showing that, or at least you didn't used to. It seems like you're getting a few more of them now, which is good, man. It means we're kind of like in the prime era of quarterback play, man. We got a lot of good quarterback action.
yeah. Well, but if you go back to Cousins when he was drafted, he would have been the earlier draft pick by Washington because Shanahan really wanted him, and Snyder's like, no, we're picking RG3 in the first round. So the
Yeah,
compromise was coming back, and what was it, third or fourth round, picking third round, I think,
I thought it was
picking.
later than that, but here, you talk and I'll look it up.
So yeah, so the part of the compromise was they went back and picked Cousins whenever they did. I want to say it was third round. I want to say they picked RG3
Fourth,
first.
102nd overall, fourth round pick.
Yeah, well, I wasn't that far off on it.
Oh, you were way off, you motherfucker. No, I'm
Yeah.
just giving you, got
So
to give you the business.
I mean, 102nd pick, fourth round. It was like what, second pick of the fourth round? Come on now.
No, I mean, hey, hey, obviously I'm a Sparty. I'm a big Cousins fan. So, but yeah, with Josh Allen, it's been impressive to see him make that kind of improvement with the accuracy, and with him being a mobile quarterback on top of that, it just makes him that much more dangerous. And Buffalo, you know, they hit the jackpot, man. They're going to be a good team for a long time because they got it right with him.
Yeah, they did, and if only other teams could get picks right, Lions, um, and not do stuff like pick a cornerback third overall who misses most of the year. Um,
Yeah. Well, hey, he's what are they saying? He's like a bad dude now or whatever. He's looking like a bad dude on that defense, and so I don't
Whatever.
know. I heard because what's the free agent cornerback we brought in? He's having personal issues now. They're saying
Oh,
Okuda. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about. They're saying Okuda and Owarrior are likely to be the one and two, and then that guy, he's kind of like until he gets whatever he's got going on figured out, he's sort of out of the mix right now. So, but that other guy, I'm drawing a blank on his name. He was expected to come in and be one of those top two guys, and maybe he still will. Maybe he'll get his stuff figured out. I'm nervous, man, with them saying Okuda's going to be possibly our one. He'd have to make a big jump from how he played last year to step up and lock that down. But I mean,
Quentin
that's the
Dunn.
goal. He was picked third. Thank you, Quentin Dunbar. Yeah, he was drafted third overall, so that's the expectation is that he will get there. And I want to
Well,
have faith.
to fucking justify the pick at third overall, you you have to get there. Otherwise, it's
Yeah,
another busted pick by
that.
the Lions.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about it last year. It was a lose-lose for him unless he came out and was like fucking Daryl Revis on day one. And the
Hmm.
Lions, they put him in a bad position by drafting him that high. It's an impossible expectation. But yeah, hey. Well, talking about cornerbacks, Xavier Howard, he was next on my list actually. So I am hearing and seeing that the Dolphins, they're trying pretty hard to repair that relationship. They're making it known that they do not want to trade him. And we'll see what that means. But I've heard that they could be working on restructuring his current deal. I mean, I know the dude had just like a ton of picks last year, and so he wants more money. And if they can find a way to bridge that gap, maybe they kind of put some of that to bed and get him back focused on this season. I know Flores, coming from those New England roots, he likes having that two cornerback combo. And if Howard falls out of the mix, that could mess things up for him and his defense, which, I mean, that defense impressed last year. So hopefully they can keep the band together, man.
Yeah, and that's all he wanted was to kind of restructure the contract a little bit. Not He wasn't really asking for more money at this time, just move some of the money up that's in the contract and stuff because he feels like he's worth more. And based on the season he had last year, he is worth more. He's worth more. Who's the other corner? Gosh, what's his name?
Yeah, I was just, dude, like my brain is off tonight, man.
Yeah,
It's another good cornerback. Here, let's see if I can find it.
either way, whoever it is,
Yeah,
Byron Jones.
thank you, thank you.
And
Yeah,
Jones, Byron Jones actually currently makes more money than Howard, and that's what the big issue was because
yeah,
Howard is showing that he's the better corner of the two.
yes. I mean, he did have a pretty ridiculous season, so it's tough. But I get it. From the team standpoint, they want to hold him to his deal also, and it's just kind of that's the
Well,
tricky part.
well, that wasn't even the issue. What happened was the team they went to the team and they were talking, let's restructure it, and the team was like, yeah, we'll restructure it, and then kind of just like fell off, like we're not going to restructure it, like they didn't come to the table honestly on it,
Okay,
and that's where he's like, you know what, fuck this shit, I'm out. I want out.
it's a principle at that point. Yeah, I
Yeah.
got you. Okay, so moving on. Last night, did you watch the Hall of Fame game, James? The
I did
Hall of
not.
Fame game, James. I only caught a little bit of it. It's tough. It's like the regular season is now so close. I can almost taste it, but the preseason games, they can be tough to watch, man. And for me personally, I like to just wait and read about the game afterwards because that's when you get the better analysis is that, people who pick up on stuff of, okay, yep, this guy, look at him, watch that, sort of like ignore these stats. The dude had like a fluke run or this or that. And it's like some of it, like the game, because you don't really know so many of the names, it just kind of like, I don't know, it's almost like it just kind of gets lost in translation somehow. But I did hear Mike Tomlin, he's happy with Najee Harris so far. I know the stat line wasn't great, but he said that he saw all the things that he wanted to see out of him, moving the pile, pass protection, things like that. Um, and then just this morning, I read that he's getting some comparisons to Steven Jackson. I think that would be great for them if that's the case. I was actually wondering myself if it'll end up being more like a Trent Richardson situation where he's just a big, strong back, and they're just going to hammer him up the middle all the time. Which honestly, I think his first year in Cleveland, I want to say he had like 10 touchdowns or something, but it was just volume. They just forced it, and with Pittsburgh and the state of their offensive line, yeah, maybe they could force it and he'll get some stats, but man, I don't know. Until I see that line improve, I'm not getting my hopes too high on Najee Harris. Although I do believe they're going to run the ball a lot because they want to spell Roethlisberger. So, we'll see what happens or keep them fresh. Uh,
See, a couple things I heard about the game on that was that Najee Harris was running into the offensive linemen left and right, and that's why he didn't get much stats. They were handing him the ball, but he like the offensive lineman was constantly there wasn't a hole for him, so he was running into the back of the offensive lineman and then getting tackled.
and that could be the story of the season for him potentially.
Yeah.
So it's tough. I will say this: I saw him in practice last week, and just on TV, not in person, obviously. And the dude does look like a freaking beast, man. And so I could see him being like that, what you would want to be like a stereotypical Steelers running back, just like a hard-nosed, freaking, almost like a Derrick Henry type, just gonna hammer you over and just, I don't know. Something about that I like. I like that hard-nosed kind of football. But on the Dallas side, there's been a lot of hype for Micah Parsons. I heard he only had something like 3 tackles, but they were saying that he just was like all over the freaking field and like so far, as good as advertised. And so, that's one I was super pumped up seeing that guy in the draft and just watching all of his college tape. And yeah, that one. I mean, I love seeing linebackers light it up, man. So I'm hoping for that guy having a solid season as well.
Yeah, like I've a lot of stuff I heard about Parsons today was basically saying he's the front runner for Rookie of the Year.
It'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean he's I told you leading up to the draft. If we had a little, I wish the Lions had a little bit lower of a pick, around like that 8 to 12 range, because
Yeah.
I would have loved them to have drafted him. But I thought where the Lions picked, what they picked, fifth or sixth. I thought that was
hmm
just a little bit too high for him.
It
But
was.
I loved him coming out.
Yeah, it was, and I was with you, man. I wanted the Lions to go and get him, and I thought, hey, it gives you options. We don't need to go down the Lions road. I'll be talking all night about them, but yeah, we were in alignment. Uh, so the next thing I picked up on today, I saw an article talking about the New York Giants, and apparently they're having some kind of exodus with players just like out of nowhere retiring this past week. And so 2 offensive linemen, Zach Fulton, Joel Looney, both retired. And then linebacker Todd Davis retired, which I don't know. I wanted to say his was kind of in the works for a couple seasons now, and it just happened. So I wasn't like blown away by him. But, it did make me wonder what the frick is going on with the Giants because I also saw an article about Sterling Shepard, I believe it was, making some comments about like, hey, if you don't like Joe Judge and his style, then you can just leave or something like that. And it's like, I don't know. I guess I got to look into it more and find out what really is going on with the Giants because it just something doesn't sound right here, man.
So so it was either the end of last week or over the weekend. There was this huge fight at practice
Okay.
in training camp with the team, and I mean it was bad. Like Daniel Jones was ended up in the bottom of like the pile of like the entire fucking team,
I did hear
and
some of that. Yeah.
and then Joe Judge made everybody run like they're in fucking high school,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden after that, all these players are starting to be the offensive lineman and the linebacker retired, and then this week, who was the other guy?
Yeah. Fulton, the other
Zach
offensive lineman.
Yeah, Zach Fulton, and was Looney retired last week,
Yep.
and then so it kind of was preceded by them running in or the brawl and them running in practice. Like I mean, and they're not obviously coming out and saying that, but then you have like the Calvin or was it Benjamin that came out and said like Joe Judge is a joke and stuff like that. So I mean, there's definitely something going on. Like kind I like the mentality a little bit, like his tough tough as nails mentality, but
Yeah.
some of the shit like you don't these are grown men. You don't make them run. Like that doesn't even work
No.
for high school kids when they make mistakes.
We've seen this kind of stuff in the NFL before, and I mean, it's not like as extreme, but it's similar to like Matt Patricia, and he almost had the frickin' coup d'etat in his hands in week 1 of his first frickin' game because he was pissing off so many players, and yeah, it's like you gotta be. I don't know, dude. I think it's tough because when you go into a bad team, you almost have to have a little bit of that drill sergeant mentality to get people to like respond the right way. But at this level, if you're not like super savvy, man, it'll blow up in your face. And, I don't know. It just, yeah, like you're saying, these are grown men, man. It's not going to work that way. And I mean, I'm a business guy, and James, I know you're getting your taste of management, and it's you know, like in the most simplest way. It's like I've always been told, okay, you either got the stick or the carrot. You can shake the stick at them, try to scare them into doing what you want, or you can hang the carrot out there and try to motivate them. And it's like at this level, I gotta believe more times than not, you gotta hang the carrot out there. These guys aren't gonna want you shaking a stick at them. They're gonna be like, "Fuck you, man. Who do you think you are?"
Yeah, I mean, at this level, the NFL level, I agree. Like, it depends. Like the way I look at it, you try the carrot first, and if the carrot's not working, then you have to go to the stick.
Okay, yeah, have a multi-faceted approach.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on then. Next piece I picked up on Jimmy Johnson. Looks like he's going to be inducted into the Cowboys Ring of Honor, which is interesting because his departure from Dallas years ago was not a good one. And, I don't, I mean, honestly, it was so long ago. I don't know all the stories and all the facts and everything behind it, but I do remember hearing that Jerry Jones didn't get invited to like the big team Super Bowl party after they won it that one year. And that was like one of his like main reasons for firing Jimmy Johnson. And so, I'm sure there was a lot more to it than that, but Jerry Jones is some crazy character, so who the heck knows? I guess at the end of the day, hey, it's good to see him make amends. I think that team would have just kept rolling with Jimmy Johnson, man. I mean, they were like everybody was loving everybody and kicking ass. And that was like, to me, that was like a, bite your nose off to spite your face thing when he got fired.
Well, see, the thing I remember about it, and I didn't hear about that part, but what I remember and what everyone since then is talking about is it was Jerry Jones's ego
Yeah.
that did it, and it was the fact that Jimmy Johnson got the credit because Jimmy Johnson got in there and he broke that team down and built the championship, and so so I and then you see Jerry Jones, and it was kind of like a reluctant thing. It wasn't like a big announcement. It was like a yeah, okay, we'll put him in the Ring of Honor, and yeah, okay. Um, it's just like
There's still some bad blood, is what you're saying.
yeah, and but yeah, I guess there was something. Jerry Jones had said something about Jimmy Johnson being disloyal and shit like that. I
Uh,
was like, what the
yeah, because he got invited to the party and you didn't.
yeah.
So then the last thing I had for this week, which I picked up earlier today, is defensive tackle Gerald McCoy signing with the Las Vegas Raiders. And so, I mean, in my opinion, I think this is a really good signing for them. I thought it was last year with Dallas. Turned out he couldn't get healthy, and so hopefully it's different this time. Hopefully he's ready to get back on the field, and he can actually make an impact. I think this guy made the Pro Bowl 6 times. I mean, he's pretty legit, and so, but injuries they can derail anybody. But if it works out, I think this is a really good, solid pickup for the Raiders, especially at this point in the offseason. He'd be coming in good time to help them boost that defense, which, as we all know, needs a lot of help.
Yeah, it didn't really move the needle for me. I mean, you look at
Okay.
like last year, he didn't do shit, and the
I don't even
Raiders.
think he ended up. Did he play last year? I just remember he
I
was like
thought he
hurt,
did.
or I better
Yeah,
look it up because, yeah.
yeah, and I remember the signing, but then I don't remember really hearing about him at all.
Yeah,
And then,
he missed the season, man. He like right before the season started, he ruptured his right quad tendon.
hmm,
And so it just that's kind of just what I vaguely remembered, was that it was like, oh man, like it didn't even start, like he got there and I was like, oh, that's gonna be great. DeMarcus Lawrence is gonna have somebody else on the line with him, and then boom, he was derailed.
yeah, it just doesn't move the needle much for me. I would have to see him back to for it to do anything. It's more of a depth move than
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. Who do you take at this stage of their career? I mean, it seems obvious right now, but him or Sue, because they were, back to back. That was the big thing everybody was talking about, right? So,
Well, if you have a one year contract, you definitely pick Soup because he's always going to play hard for that next contract.
yeah, keep them motivated. Yeah. Okay. Anything else in the news that you picked up on that you want to go through?
Well, the only thing there were two things, and they both deal with the Colts.
Hmm.
First, the Quentin Nelson and Carson Wentz have the same foot injury and are out 5 to 12 weeks.
Oh, I forgot about the Quentin Nelson thing. Yeah, that's a huge deal for them.
Yeah, so that offensive line, three of their projected starters this year, Fisher, Quentin Nelson, their center, what's his name? Oh,
Ryan Kelly.
yeah, Kelly are out, and Wentz is probably out for the start of the season. Like their first 5 games are brutal for that.
I'm going to come back to this later on, James, but you keep going. I'm just going to give you the preview that this is a part of my question of the week. But you say what you got to say, and I'm going to save my bit until we get to the end.
Oh, well, see, I was gonna hit some of the stuff in my busts
Okay.
for this fantasy season. So it was just the point I want to bring up there. And then Philip Rivers said he hasn't ruled out a
Coming
comeback.
back? Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah. Okay. So what was your other thing that you wanted to,
Oh no, that was the other thing was the
was
Philip
Rivers?
Rivers.
Okay. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was a connected piece, but yeah, I get it. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Okay, good stuff. Well, yeah, let's kick it over and let's do our 2021 fantasy football bust picks. It's still kind of early, but so basically, this is the opposite of what we did last week with the sleeper picks. And so for me, when I'm talking about a bust, I'm referring to a guy that's going to fail to live up to his ADP, his average draft position. And so, sometimes a guy can be a bust, but still be a serviceable player, both, productively in the NFL and, on your fantasy team. But, if you draft a guy in the first round and he ends up being your wide receiver three or your flex running back, I would say that that's a bust. It's like, yeah, hey, he still was able to start, but nowhere near worth what you had to do to get him in the draft.
Yeah,
You agree with that sort of definition to this?
more or less.
Okay. So let's do how we did it last week. Let's go position by position, and we'll start with the quarterbacks. I got a couple of names, but I don't want to snipe your picks like I was doing last week. So how about you go first, James?
All right, my first one.
Unless you need a minute, then I can go first.
Well, no, I my first one. It's and his ADP, because like you look at the quarterbacks, and it's kind of hard to like really find a true bust.
Yeah.
But he's like what three ninth rated quarterback on the based on ADP, and that's Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia. And
Yeah.
by the look on your face, it looks like I just sniped one of yours.
You did, but
Um,
that's fine. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not even certain that Jalen Hurts is going to be the starting quarterback all season in Philadelphia. I mean, you have all sorts of rumors about Watson. He hasn't proved shit. Like played like what 4 or 5 games last year, like full time, and it's way too high to pick an unproven commodity.
Yeah, I agree with you. And he was one of the guys I had listed, but it's okay. You can stipe me. I'm sure I'm going to get you somewhere tonight too. Yeah, to me it's tough because I like his running ability when we're talking about fantasy football. That's always huge for quarterbacks. If they can run, it gives you sort of like a safe floor. But you know, his head coach has been ambivalent about him really even being the starter, like you're saying, and it's I just don't have a lot of faith that he's going to be a top 10 guy. I mean, QB9 is high, man, and there's definitely the upside because of that running aspect. To me, it's a really high risk reward kind of pick, and so I just think his ADP is jumping the gun a little bit, and I'm right there with you, man.
Yeah, and don't even get me started on Sirianni. That is one of the worst coaching hires in the history of the NFL. He's talking about how he's determining competitiveness of potential draft picks by playing rock paper scissors with them. I mean, come on, what the fuck is this? Elementary school?
Hey, I don't even know what to say about that, but yeah, when I watch him talk, it's like a scramble. He's got like so many things going on in his head at any given moment. Um, all right, so here, and before I give you my guy, I'll say the same thing as you did. When I was looking at quarterbacks, I think it was somewhat challenging to find a true bust. When you look at him, I think that you could have made the case for a lot of the guys, or they were close enough that it's like, yeah, I mean, I still see him being somewhere in this range, and so, but this guy. I'm sure it'll be unpopular, but I'm going to say it anyhow, is Lamar Jackson. He's listed as the QB3 right now, and I just went back, checked some stats. He was the QB9 on a points per game basis in 2020. That's a big spread, okay? And I know we talked about this a lot over the past year where maybe defenses have started to figure him out. There's been concern that the offense is a little bit too plain vanilla, sort of predictable, one dimensional. And so, when I look at what they did in the offseason, I think you can make the case the other way where they put him in a position to succeed by pairing Hollywood Brown with Sammy Watkins and the rookie Rashad Bateman. Um, but I'm personally just not convinced that he's going to live up to that QB3 hype in fantasy. Just my opinion.
I I completely agree. He was my other one. And so
So we're
either
swapping
way,
snipes.
yeah, either way, I would have sniped him from you, one of them from you. But I don't have the confidence that he can do it. He's way too inconsistent to when they play a good team, he tends to have bad games. Then he just doesn't have that consistency where yeah he'll put up a huge game, but then the next week he'll come back and put up 10 points.
Yep. Yeah, and it's, similar with Jalen Hurts, where it's when you look at the fantasy aspect of it, you say, hey, it's great that he's got that running ability and like by far and away better than Jalen Hurts. But, you know, 2 years ago, a lot's changed since then. Last year, he definitely had a coming back to earth kind of thing. And I don't know. I think defenses can figure that out. And I just don't see enough out of his arm to think that he can consistently keep it at that level. So,
I agree.
okay. Did you have any other quarterbacks that you wanted to hit?
The other ones like I could see, but like I mean, you're talking like average draft pick in the 13th, 14th round. Like
Oh, yeah.
that's not a bust. I mean, they're not going to live up to it, but they're not going to live up to where they are. But it's not a bust.
Yeah, yeah, it's
It's
yeah,
a
I
flop.
get what you're saying. It's like, man, if they get there, great, they're more likely to beat it. Yeah, it's like I don't know. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Yeah, they're too far down to really put a lot of weight on. Okay, well, let's kick it over to running backs, man. Tell me one of your bust picks at running back.
This is going to be probably an unpopular one.
Okay,
This guy, his current average draft pick is sixth,
gotcha.
and he's the fifth overall rated running back based on average, or fifth running back based on average draft pick, and that's Jonathan Taylor. And that's where it kind of goes into
Yeah,
that whole Indianapolis thing. That offensive line is in flux. You have the injuries to start the season. On they're playing rough teams, and if Jonathan Taylor gets off to a slow start, it might derail the entire season for him. And plus they're not going to have Wentz for a while, so they're going to have what Jacob Eason playing quarterback there, and the teams are just going to be able to focus on Taylor, and they're going to probably be able to shut him down for the first 3 4 weeks, and then what are you going to have?
yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I think it makes it a little bit dicey for him. And, we were talking last week about Naeem Hines still being on that roster. They still got Marlon Mack, and they still got that other running back. I mean, these are guys that Hines for sure is going to have a role in that offense. And with how high Taylor's going, you just got to be careful with that. And then when you look at the fact that the quarterback situation's up in the air for at least a few weeks, the offensive line is up in the air for at least a few weeks. Yeah, that could be a really rocky start to the season. I like that pick as a bust pick because and I think he'll still. This is where we get into that whole. I think that over the course of the year, he will still be serviceable. It's just that he's not going to live up to that high first round pick, is
Hmm.
why it would be a bust. Okay, so the first guy I got on my list is Saquon Barkley. And, you know, this one, I don't want to take anything away from the dude because I think he's a stud when he's healthy. The problem is he's being drafted as the running back seven, and he's not healthy. And there are reports that are pretty wide ranging, but a lot of the ones that I'm seeing that seem to make the most sense is that either the team is going to get him in there in week 4, where basically they're just saying, first 3 weeks, we're just going to make sure we're not rushing him. Week 4, he gets back in. Or if between now and week 1, things aren't moving in the right direction, they're going to pup him, and then he doesn't come back until week 7. And so I just don't think you can take that kind of a risk with a first round pick like that in fantasy, man. A guy who, I mean, if he didn't come back until week 7, half of your fantasy season's gone. And that's a first round pick. And then, and on top of all of that, I think their offensive line is still questionable. I've heard that they're expecting things to move in the right direction this year. But what does that really even mean? They were so bad that an improvement could still have him be subpar. And so I couldn't take him with a first round pick, man. No way.
No, I agree with you. And for somebody like Saquon Barkley, you need a quarterback that can actually play football. And for a number one running back, the quarterback is key there. And if your quarterback, because you're going to get the points from the passes in the flat or out of the backfield. If teams are going to be able to focus on the running game, and it's a tough pick to get that and take a player like that in the first round.
Yeah. All right. Who do you have next?
My Saquon was my
Oh,
second bust. So my third bust, because I did about three, maybe four per position.
okay.
Um, and what's that? Saquon was seven. He's number 14, based on average draft pick, averaging out and around like the middle of the third round, beginning of the second round, beginning beginning the middle of the third round. But he's still rating out as a number two running back, and that's Najee Harris.
Okay.
And yeah, I agree with what you say that yeah, it looks like he has that Henry build where they can just pound and pound and pound him. But from what I read about the game, he's constantly running into the back of the offensive line. That offensive line has four new starters on it, and they're not better than
Yeah.
the starters they had last year. And he can't block for himself. Then you add in Ben Roethlisberger, who is aging and probably shouldn't be the quarterback of this team this year, let alone still playing in the NFL. And you add in that fact, it's very difficult to see, even though you're probably right, he's probably going to get an increased workload, but it's difficult to see him living up to a second or a number two running back on your team.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I mean, yeah, they could just shove the volume on that guy and he would be good fantasy wise, but is he going to live up to where he's at? I don't know, dude. It's a tough one. There's so many headwinds against that guy. Okay, so the next guy I had on my list, and I know we've talked about him before, is DeAndre Swift. He's currently listed as the running back 19, which is one spot ahead of Josh Jacobs. And I'm not saying that he's going to be like a hard bust because I think Detroit is planning on running the ball a lot this year. My concern is that I really like Jamal Williams, which is a player this regime played a role in bringing in. You know, these guys didn't draft DeAndre Swift. And so if he's not that hard nosed running back, which he's really not, you know, I could see them favoring Williams at some point, maybe sooner than later. And on top of that, I think the Lions offense is going to have some struggles this year. You know, I like Goff, I really do. And I think the offensive line is getting better. But at receiver, it's really dicey right now. They got to have some guys step up, which could happen. It looks like it's going to be challenging, and so it's going to be a lot of passes to Hawkinson. And I think that kind of sketchiness, it's going to put a dent in the running game. It's going to put a dent in everybody's production. And so, you know, it's year one of a massive overhaul. I'm just trying to kind of pace myself with this. And so, running back 19, it's not super high. I think that's like the ceiling for him, to be honest. And so I don't want I don't want to draft a guy at his ceiling. You know, I want to try and get some value out of him. That's, I guess, all I'm getting with that pick.
I feel like his average draft pick has gone down in the last week, because I feel like I was talking about him as a potential sleeper last week.
Okay. Yeah, I'd have to look at it. And I think Fantasy Football Calculator shows like the trend lines of if they're going up and down, and you know maybe we can pull that up real quick. But so that we already hit all your guys, right? Or did you have one more at running back?
Let me take a look. I think that was really the last one I had. that was a true bust. I mean, yeah, like the only other one I had on my list wasn't really a true bust because I mean you're talking the fourth round selection for him, and it's David Montgomery.
Okay.
I don't see Chicago having a good year at all this year,
Yeah.
and I struggle to see. I mean, Nagy can't figure out how to use the running back anyways. So
Yeah. Yeah,
I just see them having a bad season.
all right. So I just pulled up DeAndre Swift, and it's showing that from July 12th until now, he's ticked up 2 spots in the draft on average. And that's okay. I mean, that's not crazy. But all right, so here, I'll give you my last guy at running back and then we'll move on. I had Travis Etienne, however you say his last name, the running back out of Clemson on the Jacksonville Jaguars right now. He's currently listed as the running back 25. And so, I'm not like saying, oh, hey, this is like a top 10 guy that's going to bust. It's that he's a rookie and it's difficult to know what to expect from him. Uh, but here's what we know about the situation, it's a team being led by a rookie quarterback, and they already had a rock solid running back last year in James Robinson. So, and then I keep hearing things about ETN is lining up at wide receiver. And so it's like, really, what's his role going to be in this offense? And when I look at the ADP board, he's squeezed right between Kareem Hunt and Mike Davis, two guys that I believe both have way more upside. And so it just, and then I look at some of the players further down on that list, and I'm like, you could argue that a lot of those guys in that range are at least going to get the first shot of being the lead back on their team. And I don't know that that's the case with him. And I don't know. I was leery about this guy going into the draft because it just, to me, seemed like a luxury pick. And so it's, yeah, it could be a Najee Harris thing where they just like force him to get some volume and then it works out. Um, I just think with a rookie quarterback, I would expect that offense to have a lot of sputters. And then, you look at their wide receivers, man. They got Marvin Jones, they got Shark, they got Chenault. They got a lot going on there. I don't want to get my hopes up on this guy just yet. I think it's a next year kind of thing for him, not a this year kind of thing for him.
Yeah, I can see that. I I didn't put him as a bust because I just I can't project what he's going to be on that yet.
Yeah, and he's not like it's a seventh round pick. We're not talking like a third round pick or anything, and so it's not like a drastic, But I just don't I don't like where he's at. That's my opinion. Okay, moving on. Wide receivers next, James. Who do you got?
All right, the first wide receiver I have comes in at number 10,
Okay.
and it's just continuing on a theme here. It's Allen Robinson with the Bears. First of all, they're going to be starting a fucking either Andy Dalton or a rookie quarterback, and Andy Dalton's way past his expiration date. The rookie quarterback is still has to figure shit out. I like the prospects for Fields. I just see this as a very bad year for Chicago, and I don't see number 10 wide receiver potential in Allen Robinson.
Okay. Yeah, there could be some growing pains in that offense if Fields hits the field sooner than later. Um, yeah, and I guess I overlooked Allen Robinson because he's had production in the past with a bunch of randoms at quarterback, but you know, it is an uphill battle nonetheless. So, I'll give you that. The first guy I had is Terry McLaurin. And this one, honestly, it bums me out to do this because I like the guy. He was a good story 2 years ago, and he had another good season last year. But he's currently listed as the wide receiver 9. And I think people are just getting a little carried away. He finished last year as the wide receiver 26 on a points per game basis. And, I get it. People are expecting this offense to have more production with Fitzpatrick because Alex Smith, for what he played, more game manager. Fitz can actually air the ball out a little bit more. I get all that. It just seems like way too big of a jump to me to go from 26 to 9. And so I don't know. And then, looking past that, they brought in Curtis Samuel, they brought in Adam Humphries, and then at running back, they got Antonio Gibson. He's going to get the ball a lot. And they even like getting J.D. McKissick involved. They've talked a lot about him. And I can't forget, they got Logan Thomas at tight end. I just think there's too many other people now in that offense for him to put up a top 10 fantasy year. Just my opinion.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Like he's probably going to be one of my keepers this year because I'll get him as like pick 11.
Yeah,
So
that's a steal.
an 11th round pick. So, but I understand where you're coming from on his not having the value at number 9.
Okay, who you got next?
Next one I have, and I'm staying in the same division,
Okay.
and this player comes in at number 16, which would be a number 2 fantasy wide receiver on your team, and it's I don't even see him as the number 2 fantasy wide receiver on his own team,
Oh boy.
let alone overall in the league, and that's Amari Cooper in Dallas. CeeDee Lamb, who comes in only 2 ahead of Cooper, I mean, he's going to be exponentially better this year. You have Michael Gallup there. You have tight end
Blake Jarwin, Dalton
Blake
Schultz.
Jarwin. Yeah, and plus you have to account for the fact that Zeke's gonna have a better year. There's going to be running. Dak Prescott's already having injury concerns with his shoulder or his lat muscle soreness,
Uh-oh.
which if you heard the interview yesterday with Bradshaw and the staff, like legitimately it sounded like Troy Aikman was concerned about Dak's health coming into the season.
Oh,
Now,
that's not good. I didn't hear any of this.
what's his face? Who's the coach there? Shit.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. McCarthy was like all playing it off in interviews and stuff, but there's the interview that Dak did with the Fox pregame. It did not. Which reminds me, we missed something in the fucking news. Megatron's going into the fucking Hall of Fame this weekend.
Yes, he is, and he's got a nice little spat going back and forth with the Lions too.
Yeah, but anyways, but Cooper isn't even the second best fantasy receiver on his own team. He's not. When you compare adding in all the other receivers in the league, he's not going to be a number 2 fantasy wide receiver for anybody. He's more of a flexer or a backup wide receiver this year. I just see him tailing off more.
Okay, I got you. Well, here I got one that's maybe similar as to what you're saying. I'm expecting to take a lot of shit from this pick, but I'm going to say it anyhow. And it's Julio Jones, currently listed as the wide receiver 15. Look, the dude has had a heck of a career, and I'm sure he still has something left in the tank because wide receivers can play at a high level for a long time in this league. I'm just saying that I'm going to be cautious. I'm not drafting him where he's at on his ADP for a handful of reasons. First of all, Tennessee is still a run first team. Okay, so unless something happens to Derrick Henry, you got to keep that in mind. Second, when it comes to their receivers, A.J. Brown is the top dog in this offense. And then third, to continue going, I look at the production that Corey Davis had last year. And honestly, say what you want about Corey Davis. Last year was a really solid year for him in that offense. And he only finished as the wide receiver 30 in fantasy from a points per game perspective. And, I get it. Julio Jones, Corey Davis, you can't really put them in the same conversation like that. I just, I'm looking at the volume. And what I'm saying is that Corey Davis maximized the volume that was available for a wide receiver two on that team last year. Can Julio Jones squeeze out a little bit more? Probably. Is it enough to go from the wide receiver 30 to the wide receiver 15? That I'm not so sure about. And so I think that people are drafting based on the name brand, not necessarily the amount of balls that are going to go his way in this offense. And so, I don't know. I would be more comfortable drafting him around the wide receiver 20 spot. 15 is just a little bit too rich for me.
Yeah, I could see that. I waffled back and forth on Julio. He was almost one of mine, but then when I sat down and thought about it, is with the pieces in that offense, there's a possibility he could have a great year at receiver, because it's just it's just that you have all those options, that there's going to be less focus on him. And over
Yeah.
the past few years, there's been a lot of focus on him in the offense, where they knew who Matt Ryan was going to throw to.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm excited for the Tennessee offense, man. I mean, I think they could be unstoppable, barring injuries. I just worry that people are expecting more than what's going to be available for them. That's all it is.
I can see that.
All right. Any other wide receivers?
I do. This wide receiver comes in at number 24 on the list, and it's so I kind of hated this player being signed away from Detroit, and because that left us with no wide receivers. But you look at the offense there in New York, and it's Kenny Galladay.
Yeah.
24 is way too high for him, with the lack of you like you said, Saquon Barkley might be out to week 7. Danny Jones can't throw the forward pass. That team's just in pure disarray right now.
Yeah, and I think Galladay's just tweaked a hamstring, and so it's man, I
Yeah.
don't know. It's the headwinds, man. There's a lot of headwinds for a lot of guys right now.
Yeah, so
Uh,
I don't I think 24 is a little high for him. Like, I mean, you're talking 24th overall wide receiver. You're talking 8th round, maybe 10th round is more accurate for him than 7th,
okay.
8th round.
And I think that in the right situation, Galladay has plenty of upside. He's shown that he can be good, but last year, injuries, this year, sort of like a dicey offense composition. I mean, it just, yeah, I'd be nervous about it. But I hope the best for him. I wish he was still a Lion, but that's a different story. Um, so the last guy I got on my list is Deontay Johnson out of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's currently listed as the wide receiver 22. Last year, he was the wide receiver 32 on a points per game basis. And so we're talking a fairly significant improvement is what's expected on the ADP standpoint. And, could there be improvement? Yeah, for sure, there could be. I mean, he's still a young guy, and the expectation is those young guys will get better every year. But when I look at this team and I see that they re signed Juju, I'm also expecting Chase Claypool to step up even more. I mean, he's already in the spotlight. And then, really beyond that, it's just like we talked about. Najee Harris, they're probably going to force a lot of carries to that guy to try and keep Big Ben's arm rested for the playoffs. And so I just am not seeing a lot of opportunity for Deontay Johnson to jump up 10 spots on the ADP. It's too much, man. So I see that as being a potential bust pick.
I see anybody with any wide receiver with the Steelers as a potential bust pick, and I couldn't pick one of them. That's why I kind of left all of them off my list. Juju, Johnson, Claypool. I see them as terrible picks. They're way overvalued, and it's because of what Ben did in the past, not who he is now.
Okay. Yeah, there's man, I don't know. I'm nervous about the Steelers, man. I mean, it's yeah, we've talked about it. This could be a rough year for them. But, Tomlin always seems to coach him up and get him going, and so who knows? We'll see what happens. Did you have any other receivers?
No, not
Okay.
no other receivers.
All right, kicking it over to tight end, man. How about you kick us off?
Which one to start with? Which one to start with? I'm gonna pick one that I don't think is gonna snipe you.
Okay.
So this guy, he's number 7 overall at tight end, and that's Dallas Goedert.
You sniped me.
Damn.
No, it's good. I got a few, you
Was
know.
was 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 one of them Hawkinson?
No, I like Hawkinson.
All right, I'll go with Hawkinson.
No, no, do Goddard, because I got a few more guys to talk about.
Oh, I have a whole shitload of them.
All right. Well, whatever
So
you want to do, you
so
go and whatever. We'll make it work.
I waffled on Hawkinson, so I'm more firm on Goddard. Like I said earlier, Jalen Hurts is. I'm not certain that he's the quarterback that's going to be starting for this team. You're going to have chemistry issues. You still have Zach. You still have Ertz there. They haven't
Yep.
traded him for some fucking reason.
Yep.
And having him at number 7, while it's a seventh round pick. Seventh round pick anyways is too high for a fucking tight end, but for a tight end that you're not even sure is going to ultimately be the number 1 tight end there is because there's a reason why they're holding on to Ertz. There's got to
Yeah.
be a reason. What's going on there? What's going on with Goddard? And that's why I see him being as a huge bust. Probably more around like the 15 to 20 overall tight end than 7.
Yeah, and so I was looking at it. He was the tight end 13 last year, and so jumping up to 7 is a pretty big jump. And I know that everybody's kind of expecting that he'll be the top guy instead of Ertz because Ertz has had a falling out with their management. Um, but I think there's a lot of risk here, like you're saying. Ertz is still there, and damn, dude, I just thought about how cool it would be if the Lions traded for him because we need help, and we could have Hawk and Ertz at tight. I'll stop myself, but with Goddard, I did go back and I looked at the game logs, and I get it. Hertz was a rookie, but the production wasn't there between these two. Goddard was getting 30, 40 yards a game. When Wentz was in early in the season, Goddard was lighting it up. And I think people need to see that distinction that, Hertz wasn't really getting this guy the ball a lot. And so like we're focusing on the wrong production. We're focusing on the early part of the season when Wentz was still the guy. And so I'd be cautious with that. I agree. Goddard is one to watch. Okay, so the next guy, the guy on my list, I got Tyler Higbee from the Los Angeles Rams. He's currently listed as the tight end 9. Last year, he finished as the tight end 20 on a points per game basis. And this is one that just stuck out to me because in 2019, you go a year back, he was the tight end 11. And I think that was a really, really good year for this guy. And I think that that's something about that season hyped this guy up, and people have been hanging on to that. It's been lingering with them. But, in his best year of his career, he was the tight end 11. And now he's being drafted as the tight end 9 when he had like a big drop last year. I don't know, man. I'm just nervous that this guy might have been sort of like a 1-year wonder. And I'm not saying that he's a bad tight end. I think he's a good tight end. I just don't think he's top 10 fantasy worthy right now, in my opinion. And I do see the other side. You can say, well, Cam Akers went down. They're probably going to be passing more. That could bode well for him. It just feels a bit steep if you ask me. That's all it is.
Yeah, I can give you that. I went you you went one more than what my next guy is, and
Okay.
I this is the one I thought I was for sure you were gonna have on your list, and that's Noah Fant in Denver.
I like him. I'm just not sure. But yeah, go ahead.
He's, he, so you look at his production over the last let's just say last year. Everyone was so high. I was so high on him last year too. So I'm not just saying everyone. He had he had 673 yards last year and 3 touchdowns. Previous year, his rookie year, everyone thought last year he if you take a step forward, it's going to be it's going to be in your second, third year, and he didn't really improve from his previous year. In fact, in 2019, he had 40 receptions for 562 yards, where in 2020 he had 62 receptions for 670 yards. So his yards per reception is declining, declined. He had he had the exact amount of touchdowns. He still has Drew Lock throwing him the football. I
Yeah.
think people were running under the assumption, which I was under that assumption too, that Rodgers was going to be the quarterback there, and that might be why he's in the top 10. Because if Rodgers is there, I think it's a different story. I think he's talented. I just don't think fantasy production wise he's there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's still getting a lot of the draft pedigree stuff coming out early from Iowa and the receiving tight end. Man, I mean, people were just so pumped about him and it just and I don't know if it's all him as much as it's just that offense and the lack of a steady quarterback and yeah, I don't know. I still see potential in him. It's just that he needs things to go right offensively to bring it out of him. I don't know. That's just the way I see it. But yeah, could be a bust. So the last tight end I had was good old Tim Tebow, man, sitting there at the tight end 19 spot. I know it's way down, and like you were talking about, hey, when they're that far down in the draft, it's probably not even worth bringing them up. But I am bringing him up because do we really think he's going to be a top 20 fantasy tight end? I don't know, man. 5+ years ago, if he would have made that switch, maybe. It just seems like it's a sideshow. They want him there, the Jacksonville connection, Urban Meyer, yada yada yada. And I hope the best for him. I really do. I love Tebow. I think he's a great stand-up guy, and I know he's a heck of an athlete. It just to me is at least a few years too late to be doing this. I just don't see it, man.
I I understand what you're saying there. I didn't go that far down the list.
I know I was going down far. When I saw it on there last week when we were doing the sleepers, I was like, really? Fuck, man. I'm gonna have to call it out.
Yeah. I didn't I really honestly didn't go much past 10, 11 on the list because I mean then you're talking like right around where you should be drafting your tight end.
Yeah, at the very end of the draft.
Yeah, like 11th through 15th round.
I gotcha. And so yeah, I went above and beyond, James. Above and beyond. So did you have any other tight ends?
Not really. I think like there's a lot of tight ends that are overhyped that
Yeah.
Hunter Henry or Jonnu Smith and stuff like that. Oh, both of them are going to be in the top 15. And as what I'm
With
reading
Cam?
all this with whoever's at quarterback there. But if you look at the history in the last 20 years, only 4 times did two tight end sets get have a tight end and one of them in the top 15 for fantasy production.
Okay.
And it's just not there. And with Cam there or possibly Mac Jones, who I heard had a bad week in training camp this week, it's
Oh,
just
too
it's
dicey.
it's yeah, it's too dicey to trust anybody in that offense. Like I'm based on what I'm reading coming out of New England, I'm reassessing my thoughts on the possibility of New England making the playoffs this year.
Okay. Well, that's a pretty big turn. See, I was gonna say I like how it bodes for the team I'm just not sure how I like it in terms of fantasy production. But if they're having other dysfunction or other issues, then it just may be a lose-lose for them for whatever reason this year.
Hmm.
Okay, well, let's kick it over to the defenses. And so I just had a couple. I picked two of them this year. I'll let you go first, and then I will go second.
So I picked one defense, and that's Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I don't. Yeah, they have a lot of the players, but if you look at last year, without Bud Dupree, this defense was in disarray. It was not the same defense that they had um, at the beginning of the season. Obviously, Bud Dupree's no longer there, but you look at their statistics last year, and they ranked that in passing yardage, they were 16th, and rushing yardage allowed they were 32nd. Total yards per game 26th, and it's just
Well, I think they
um,
lost a couple of their top cornerbacks too. Like they had some pieces leave.
yeah, and but I'm just looking at the loss of Bud Dupree,
Yeah.
and that makes this defense shaky in my opinion.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. They've got some stuff working against them, and they're pretty highly rated right now. So I went with the Los Angeles Rams, and maybe I'm reaching on this, James, because this defense has a lot of fucking talent. I mean, Aaron Donald's all you need, but they've got talent beyond him. Uh, what I'm saying here is that these guys were the defense one last year. They were the top defense. And this is a position from a fantasy standpoint that historically has a ton of churn from one year to the next. And I'm sure you probably remember you go back a handful of years ago with Jacksonville, and they went to the AFC Championship game, and their defense was just fucking lighting shit up, and then they fell off a cliff the next year. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen to the Rams because the Rams have been a top defense steadily. But what I'm saying is that if you go back to the year before, 2019, they were the number 5 ranked defense in fantasy. And then you bring it back to today. Okay, they lost their defensive coordinator. They lost John Johnson from the secondary. The division is still extremely tough, and the expectation is San Francisco is going to be back to form. Arizona is still getting better. I'm just saying be cautious. Be cautious. Don't take this defense in the seventh, eighth round. Like just, you know, but I like to wait on defenses. So I just think it's a high price to pay for something that is historically very unpredictable in fantasy.
Hmm. I can give you that.
And then I had one more, and that's the Washington football team. I really like this defense. I liked them a lot last year. I just don't like them as the defense too. It's just so high. They were the number 6 ranked defense last year, which I thought was a strong showing for them. I do think that there could be some improvement. Chase Young is only going to get better. I just think it's a big jump going from 6 to 2. And I don't know. It just, plus, I think their division is going to be better. How could they not be? They were atrocious last year. I don't know. It's just all I got to say about that. I guess I, I just was really hoping they would have been lower, and then I would have been more comfortable drafting them because I would have gladly drafted them, just not as the defense too.
Yeah, I can see that. So we got 1, 2, and 3. So
Yeah, watch out for those top defenses, man. Yeah. Okay, so that's the busts. Let's kick it over to our question of the week. And so James, earlier on, we were talking about the Colts and everything they got going on there. Wentz is injured. They got a bunch of offensive linemen injured. Things are looking pretty crazy in Indianapolis right now, which is a bummer because this was a team that made a good playoff run, and it looked like Wentz was going to be sort of like that missing piece, maybe to help get him a little bit further than what Philip Rivers did, or at least mitigate the loss of Philip Rivers. And now a lot of that's up in the air. But let me just kind of like talk this out with you. And I pulled up their schedule, okay? And you talked about it. Their first 5 weeks are brutal. They're gonna kick the season off against the Seahawks. Then they're playing the Rams, then the Titans, then the Dolphins, and then the Ravens. That's a really tough way to start the year, okay? And I guess I guess my question is that, and I'm trying to think of the right way to put this, but it's, do you think that the injury to Wentz was a good thing? And I guess let me explain it, is that his confidence was jacked up in a major way last year in Philly, okay? And, I think him being back with Reich puts him back on the right track. I guess I was just nervous that with that first 5 games, if it gets off to a rocky start, maybe there's no coming back for him from a confidence standpoint. But now with him potentially coming back at the tail end of that, or even after that, and let's just say he starts weeks, whatever it is, against Houston, it's like maybe he comes into a puff game and he gets that win under his belt. He could be like the freaking hero for this team that could maybe start 0-4 or 0-5, and then him get in and just take him to a playoff run, man. I mean, this could actually be a good thing for Wentz, as crazy as it sounds. I don't know. What do you think?
I'm intrigued by that question because it's something I didn't think of, and you're right. That could be it could be what he needs to get his confidence. I mean, it might be a good thing, and it's just something I did not think of.
It just, I felt like I was a little off my rocker thinking about it that way, but I was like, man, if Eason's the guy and they just get smoked a handful of times, he's like got the chance to come in and be the fucking ultimate hero, man. Like when he's healthy, if they don't rush him back. But the other way is if he came in and they just got smoked 3, 4 games in a row, people would be like, oh, yep, he is washed up, his confidence gone, get him out of here. And it just, people would be like so quick to pull the freaking plug on him with the way he played last year. And so I think if he sits a few games, gets to the tail end of this first tough part of the schedule, I think it's a good thing, man.
Yeah, yeah, you could be right on that. I just it's weird. I didn't even consider it that way.
And one day I'll give you these questions ahead of time. I should do that more often. But yeah, I got you in a bit of a quandary on this one. Uh,
I like it. I think it's a good thought and possibly exactly what he needs coming into this year.
it could be
Because then
good,
he
man.
comes in week 5, week 6, and he doesn't have all those expectations because he's coming back from an injury.
Yeah, and the schedule lightens up. And so,
Hmm.
he could lose a few and win a few, and it still looks like, oh, hey, we're still in good shape with him, like put the first few games away. But all right, well, hey, so for anybody who's watching, similar to Name That Stadium, you are welcome to answer our question of the week. We want to hear from you. Hit us up in the comments section on YouTube or on Facebook or wherever you're watching or listening from. And so, James, moving on to our wrap up, man. I think that's pretty good for tonight. Did you have any closing thoughts, my man?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay. I think the NFL Top 100 is starting to come out soon, so maybe we'll dig into that in one of these next couple weeks. But yeah, I'll hit you up this weekend. We'll come up with a topic for next week.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, so yeah, anybody who's watching, we hope you liked the show. If you did, give us that thumbs up, shoot us some comments. And if you really like us, hit the subscribe button. We appreciate the support. James, like always, man, it was fun. I will catch you later, man.
All right, sounds good. Have a good one.
All right, see ya.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut hut hike.